Basketball Weekly Show on the Grilling Truth Sports Network. The Indiana Basketball Weekly Show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. Go to the Grilling Truth website at grillingtruth.net. Click on the MyBookie.ag banner. Bet on the next Indiana Hoosier game or the Super Bowl or whatever you want to bet on. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and Steve Risley, former Indiana basketball player, national champions with me today. And Steve, we're up to 12 wins. We gutted out a tough one, 71-68 against Maryland last night. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Hoosiers are doing good. I think that last night was a kind of a watermark win for us. Put us back in a position where we needed to be. I think right now you have to look at the season here, and this is how we always looked at it, and it's kind of described as kind of a two-part season. And there's this thing in business or in management or leadership or coaching or anything. There's two types of things you can do. There's task-oriented managers or coaches, and there's results-oriented managers and coaches. They both intertwine. You have to perform tasks to seek results. You have to seek results, you have to perform tasks. So they both intertwine mentally. But at various parts of a basketball season or in a cycle of a product or whatever you're doing, selling a product or building a house or whatever, they take on varying leadership roles in their own rights. Early in the year, it's a task-oriented mentality for a basketball team. You've got to get the people and the personnel in the right place. You've got to develop the basic fundamentals. You've got to develop skill sets, the lines of communication, find your strengths, guard your weaknesses, get to know each player. Players know coaches. Those are all tasks that you have to perform. And while results, you certainly are always trying to drive results, the tasks early in the year become more definitive than the results do. Now, as you progress into the season and you get to where Indiana is now, Indiana has fallen totally into, as should most every team in the country right now who's dreaming of playing in the tournament or winning a championship, you become a results-oriented program where you still do your practice and work on your tasks every day. You still do your blockout drills. You still do your post-denial drills, your help side defense, your ball handling skills. Those tasks are done daily, but the focus now shifts on results. And it's kind of a mentality of Dick Vitale used to say, hey, just win, baby, just win. And right now, Indiana has totally shifted into that results-oriented mentality of they just have to win every game. And as we look at the season from the Michigan State game going forward, I realistically think we couldn't win the Michigan State game. I don't think there was a chance for us to win that game. Not given the fact that we're playing there. We're short one big man anyway, and then we don't even initially count 13 going down, and then we lose him, Morgan, and then so that game is we've lost that game probably from the set. Michigan State's coming off a bad stretch. They're all fired up. Indiana still is a branded product, so we're going to give that game away. That's a game we probably can't win no matter what we do with this edition of this basketball team. But Maryland and Illinois and Purdue and Ohio State, and then bringing Michigan State back to Bloomington, and then Rutgers, then Minnesota and Illinois and Iowa and Nebraska and Ohio State. Those are all games that we can win. There's no reason we should not have an opportunity to win the remaining games that Indiana plays if we're playing results-oriented basketball and we're doing all the things we need to do to just win. So from here on out, I really think Indiana's in a good position to control their own destiny as far as making the dance, which is still a realistic goal for this basketball club, is to get invited to play in the final 65, 66 teams, however many they take now with all the playing games, because ESPN doesn't want to show Australian football rules anymore. So they got to fill it with these playing games.
I like Australian rules football.
I love Australian rules football. I grew up with ESPN on Australian rules football, but now we're down from 48 when I played to 60 some odd teams. Open it up one more weekend, let every team play in a tournament like true Indiana high school basketball. We'll get another Bobby Plump story somewhere. But Indiana did what they needed to do against Maryland. Now, I actually thought against Michigan State they played a heck of a ball game. I think they hung in there. They improved their defensive skills. Their glaring weaknesses are still very glaring. They are not a good perimeter defensive basketball team, and they're gonna get really. Their biggest disappointment is going to come against a really good 3-point shooting team that's just going to wipe them out. The 3-point shooting, Michigan State shoots 50%, 10 of 20 from the 3-point goals. Maryland shoots 40%. You cannot be giving up 40% and 50% from the 3-point arc and expect to win an important basketball game. There's just a lot of teams out there that could just bury you with that 3-point shot. And we are not good at rotating over and getting in the right position, one step man side of the ball when the ball's on the outside of the court. So you can cover, if you're one step man side rather than one step ball side, and you're one step man side, in a basic defensive principle, you can guard 2 players with 1 defensive player on the perimeter. As long as they stay out on that 3-point perimeter, you can guard 2 because you've got enough time. If you're one step ball man side, you can get to that player and can at least contest the shot and make it difficult. But we're giving up far too many uncontested 3-point shots. And once a team starts hammering at us with 25, 30 3-point shooters, we're going to be in trouble if we don't cover that. We still lack some leadership, I believe. I still think we don't have a true inspired leader out there. We have players that play well. We look at Juwan Morgan as a leader. He's really not an emotional leader. He's a statistical leader for us. And he's emotional in the fact that I think he plays hard every time he's in the game. But he's not the guy that's going to go up and slap somebody in the face because they're just continually not doing the things they need to do to just win, baby. And we don't have that player on the team. And I don't even really see Coach Miller really being that coach yet who's going to slap some player on the head and say, you're benched. I'm sorry, I can't use you now because we are trying to win to get in the tournament, and you're not giving me what I need out of you. So this team still lacks what I call emotional leadership. But we are improving every game. We're getting better. And I know you want to dispute that.
No, I don't want to dispute that. But what my thing is this with Coach Miller is what I think you see with this team, 4-0 in games decided by 5 points or less. I think this team is slowly taking on the personality of him. And when he was at Dayton, which I see a lot of Dayton basketball because they're like within an hour from where I live, that team progressively each year more and more took on his personality. His personality is to get in your face, play defense, and not give that up. I think when you look at this team last night, they gave up 39 points in the first half. The defensive rotations were terrible. I think what won the game was the fact that I think the defensive rotations got significantly better in the second half of the game. And I think we see this team slowly taking on the personality of the coach. And this personality of this coach is a personality that's hard to get out of teenagers and guys in their early 20s anymore, which is to get in somebody's face and hammer on them until you beat them. And I'm seeing this more every time I see them play the game. And even as you talked about Michigan State, against Indiana State, at halftime, it looked like that team had quit. Now we're at a point where you're getting beat worse by a better team, but I still thought they were playing hard. They just weren't as good as Michigan State that night.
I agree. And I agree with all of your observations. The key operative word there is slowly taking on his identity. This is Indiana. This isn't Dayton. All right? People expect results immediately.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the thing. People in Dayton,
he had 6 years to get that team to where he took it.
I'm sorry, but people in Dayton do expect results. And they have gotten better results in Dayton than Indiana has over the last 20 years. I mean, they've been to the Elite Eight. They've been to a few Sweet 16s. Those were because of Miller. All I'm saying is the mentality that he has, if he's not picking his own players, which he didn't with these guys, he's got to kind of slowly mature them into what he wants. And I think he's doing a great job at doing this. And I don't know if this team's going to win 20 games this year, 16 games, but all I know is the kids that come back next year are already going to have that mentality, and the guys he goes out and get are going to have that mentality. And I think Indiana basketball fans are really good basketball fans. I think the majority of them know a lot about basketball, and I don't see how any true Indiana Hoosier fan could be upset with what they've seen over the last 4 or 5 games.
Mike, I couldn't agree with you more. And I am not bashing Coach Miller. I think he's done a phenomenal job. He's exceeded my expectations based on what he was given to work with. and how this team bought into his theory, where I think they're just buying into it right now, and that's why we're seeing the results we are. So this is nothing against him. I am more than pleased as a former player with the direction this basketball program is going, and at the pace at which it's going. It's good. It's ahead. And your observations about the players that he has now coming back with that toughness mentality are going to be there. He's going to go get his own players who are going to buy into that mentality at the beginning of the season, not 2/3 into the season. You're exactly right. So there's no flaw there. Trust me, I now watch a game, whereas when we were watching Indiana State and Youngstown State and the early games, we were like, okay, I really don't want to bash them too bad. Right now, I'm working hard to find things to really get on this team about, because I'm really pleased with the development and growth they're showing, because they're showing growth in almost all areas. I point out perimeter defense, they're not showing growth there. They're not buying into that process yet of knowing they have to guard that. When they get against a great three-point shooting team, it's going to bite them in the ass. As simple as that. It will. But that's a fix that Coach Miller's shown he's fixed everything else. Their defensive tenacity, they're cutting off lanes now defensively. They're taking away the baseline some. They still need to help more. It's just tweaking. It's more tweaking than fixing right now. But I really like the direction of this ball club. Everybody should. And you're right. Indiana fans are smart, and they know good basketball. And I hope they all think they're seeing it right now. This team really has an opportunity to win out. The two toughest games they've got left right now are Purdue at home and then Michigan State again, which, they're playing both those games in Bloomington. And, they've got a 3-game tough stretch there where they really need to come out of that 3-game stretch 2-1. They've got Purdue, Ohio State, and Michigan State. And they've got to go to Ohio State. They got Purdue and Michigan State at home. They really need to find a way to come out of that with 2 wins somehow. And if they do that, I think that unless they puke on themselves in the last 4 games, they're in the dance. I like the fact that with about 3 minutes to go against Maryland makes a big run and gets a 5-point lead. Just bing, bang, bing, bang, bang. All of a sudden, it's dogfight. What's Indiana do against Indiana State? You're right. We saw them lay down and die. We don't care. Johnson's going to get his 20 and go home. Juwan's going to be getting no help. McRoberts is going to find out how many passes he can make before he even knows there's a basket on the court to aim at and shoot at. But this team within a minute had the lead again. After going down 5, had the lead again. That's heart. That's tenacity. That, I think, is Archie Miller brand basketball.
Yeah, and Steve, the thing that really stood out to me is how that run happened was a couple really questionable officials calls, which will really send a team over the edge a lot of times. I mean, the charge that was called, I forget who was driving there, but the dude was under the basket. It was a terrible call. And the fact that it wasn't Maryland that made the run, it was the officials that kind of made the run. And I'm not blaming the officials because, let's face it, if Indiana plays defense in the first half like the second half, they win this game by 15 points and it doesn't matter. But it's really easy as a player or a coach to get wrapped into, I just got screwed by this coach. And you forget what you're doing for a minute, and the next thing you know, instead of being down by 5, you're down by 10. And this team didn't. They fought through it. And the other was Josh Newkirk stood out to me. He made a stupid turnover around that time in the game, and the inside of the 5-minute mark, he turns the ball over. Instead of coming back and committing a stupid foul like they would do earlier in the year, he takes the ball back away from the guy. He doesn't lose his head. And as a coach, the thing I always told my players is this: I don't care if you screw up as long as you forget about it right away. Because if you don't forget about it right away, you just compound the error and make it a bigger error that we may not be able to overcome.
Right. No, exactly right. No, and Newkirk, he has to step up, and we've talked about that. He has stepped up, and his effort has grown enormously. I mean, he puts himself into the ballgame now. And while I still like to see more leadership, the most leadership out of him and more point production possibly, but he's putting himself into the game in places, plugging himself in where, like you just said, he made a mistake, he came down, and he reversed that mistake with a great defensive effort, and he busted his butt and got down court. Unlike some of the other players in the team who make a mistake, take a bad, miss a shot, or, they kind of just sulk on the way back down court and something else happens before they get into the fray. So on Newkirk's blessings, I really like seeing that. I think that's a big turnaround for this basketball team, and it goes back to Johnson and Newkirk and their senior play and their leadership and doing those intangible things like that other players pick up on. And it just changes the whole mentality of this basketball club. So, and you're right, the officials really started that run for Maryland. I mean, the one, was it Newkirk or Johnson that they called for a foul on the layup, and the guy, when they showed the replay, he swiped above his head by about 6 inches, never touched the guy.
Yeah.
It was like, I was actually pretty surprised, truthfully, that Miller didn't lament and argue more than he did. And I think that shows a lot of character on Miller's part, to just not let that become part of the game here and let this game get out of hand, like you said, by compounding things, by arguing the referee, distracting the referee, pissing the referee off. Because I think on that play where, or maybe it was the charge call.
It was the charge call that stood out to me. The
charge call that came in, and they threw the ball out of bounds, which I thought we touched it last, and the referee gave it back to us. And I took it to my wife, and I said, that's a make-up call right there. The ref knew he blew the call, the charge call, and he gave it right back to us. But I think that's a lot of credit to Miller for playing the referees in the right way and not sitting there and being an emotional, doggy downer on that, and just saying, hey, that stuff's all part of the game. And this Indiana team has really come together. It's maturing as a group of kids very well. So.
And the one thing that I learned a long time ago as a coach, if you're losing your mind, what are your kids going to do? They're going to do the same thing. I mean,
same thing, yeah.
They follow what they're preached. I mean, you had Bobby Knight, not the same thing, but he is one of a kind. And, I mean, when I used to coach when I was in my 20s, I'm screaming at everybody. Because that's what Bobby Knight, I love Bobby Knight, and he won all the time. Until I just realized one time, I'm coaching a game, and I'm screaming at the official. And a couple plays later, my kid gets hit a little bit out of bounds, and he's mad. And he jumps up, and he starts screaming at the official. And I walk over, I stand in front of him. I said, knock it off. And he looked at me, and he said, you did it. I mean, right there. I mean, if everybody's losing their mind, we're going to lose. And that's why I like Miller so much, why I wrote the article right after they hired him, that I thought it was the perfect hire. And I think this, if we're doing this show 15 years from now, Archie Miller's still the coach at Indiana.
I believe so, too. And I do think he's the perfect hire. I do think he is the right person to turn Indiana basketball into a new era, new chapter, with the same continued success that the Bob Knight era brought us. And the one thing I'll say about Coach Knight is when he ranted and raved, it was calculated.
Yeah.
He was so methodical in his ranting and raving. People think he flew off the handle. He had it down to a T what his goal was when he started ranting and raving. And 99% of the time, he got his desired results because he knew when to, how far to push it. And even as far as pushing it to the point of getting a T or getting ejected, there was very little that was uncalculated about Bob Knight. And that's what people that are detractors of him will always really fail to grasp, because they never got close enough to him to be able to study him in those moments as you're sitting there on the bench or you're in a huddle with him. He's calculating. So Miller has a lot of those same qualities, I believe, about him. He's starting to really show them, and he's starting to really coach his basketball team now. I felt like earlier the team was coaching him a little bit, but maybe that was part of his process too. We're just trying to learn these kids.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think he's got him. I think the NCAA's got to take a hard look at Indiana now and say, this team is getting better every game they play. And we have to really start, even though their record's 12-7 or whatever we are right now.
Yeah, 12-8.
Maryland's a big win for us. Maryland was a team that was, on somebody's already. They're picking, bubble teams, in teams, out teams. I saw, and Maryland was the last team in from the Big Ten. And now you read the paper the next day or the Twitter the next day. Maryland now in big jeopardy of being an NCAA tournament team. Well, then that's got to put Indiana deep into the mix. Indiana still is in the top half of the Big Ten.
Yeah, they're fifth right now.
5-3 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they're fifth right now.
They're fifth right now. Still in the top half of the Big Ten. They're playing well enough that I could see them winning one, maybe two games in the tournament, depending on the draw. And as long as they stay in the top half of the tournament, of the Big Ten, they're going to get a better draw than if they slip down. Now, that being said, they've got their hands full. They got to go to Illinois, which they should be able to win that game. But then they've got, Purdue, Ohio State, and Michigan State. And I firmly believe for them to have a real solid, they can solidify their bid by winning 2 of those 3 games. If they can find a way to win 2 of the 3 games against Purdue, Michigan, and Ohio State, I think and they don't slip up the last 4 games, I think they're in the tournament. And not as a 16
my biggest
seed
concern right now is Illinois, because you've got Purdue, number 3 in the country, looking at you at home this weekend. So I think this is another game where we can see just how much effect Archie's had on this team, and whether they come out and just fight through it, get the win, whether it's by a point or 30 points, and get to where that Sunday game becomes even bigger for Indiana.
Exactly. That's my next point. We're going to see a new facet of Archie Miller now. Can he get them to focus on Illinois and have them play and not let this team look ahead to Purdue, Ohio State, and Michigan State like you and I are right now? We're almost discounting Illinois, but, we have the luxury of doing that because we're just yackers on the radio.
Well, how about this? How about this, Steve? Let's go this way. Say it's 1980, 1981. Indiana's playing whoever. The next game is Purdue at home. As a player, I mean, it's great where players say, no, Coach Knight kept us and we didn't think about it. You have to think about that a little bit.
Oh, sure you do. Sure you do. You're always looking at the big game. I mean, and especially in a situation like Illinois, who's struggling this year. Of course you are. It's human nature. You see that as the game, the Purdue game is on. It's on Fox TV, so it's on national television. It's going to be a big game. It's a 6:30 game or 3:30 game. So it's a mid-afternoon game. It's going to be, it's going to be the Purdue's ranked 3, most likely still going to be ranked in the top 3 going into that game. So sure, Indiana's looking forward to that, especially with what I still think is the lack of emotional leadership this basketball team has. Now, how much Archie can impart on these guys to not look ahead really gives us another prism look at his coaching style and see, from this angle in a prism, can he direct these guys to stay focused on Illinois and also prepare for Purdue? He should have his assistants to be doing all the preparation for Purdue right now.
So let me ask you this.
Have those kids focus on nothing else.
Real quick, kind of off the same question I just asked you. So if you had a game like a Purdue or Ohio State was really good back then, like in 1980, the game before that, the practices before the game, before the big one, did you see any difference? Was he a little bit tougher to try to wake you guys up and let you know, hey, we got to play this game against Wisconsin before we play the Ohio State game?
Yeah, the Knight you generally would find emotionally, Knight would be more stronger and verbal in a practice like for an Illinois game than he would, but physically no, because Knight's system was always to, as we wound down the season, we kind of take down the level of physicality in the practice so we don't get players hurt late in the season. But emotionally, mentality, Knight was on us against Illinois. He knew we had to be emotionally ready to play that ball game. He knew we were physically ready, but he knew he was doing everything he could to distract us from thinking about Purdue. Although as players, we still would think about Purdue. But you're exactly right. So that's what Miller's got to really focus on. I'm sure he's doing it. He has not really made a major mistake as a coach yet in Indiana, in my eyes. I think he's taking the time we as fans don't want to give him. But I think he's really put his team together in a good place right now with playing time, with distribution of playing time, with personnel being at the right places in the right time, finding the right mixers. So I don't see him faulting on this one. I think the team will be ready to play against Illinois and understands the importance of winning that game. Because if they don't beat Illinois, the next 3 games really become not as important.
All right, Steve. So are we going to go live tomorrow night after the game?
Yeah, let's go live. Let's do it live, barring any illnesses, sickness, flus.
Yeah, that's going around.
No, I know it's going around everywhere. It's going around everywhere, and it's tough. But I think we take it live. We come back after the Illinois game tomorrow, and then we set the tone based on how they play. Illinois will be a real barometer for us to see how ready this team is to put itself in the tournament.
All right, Steve, let everybody know so we don't forget, if anybody's got any questions, where they can find us on social media.
Twitter, Grueling Hoops, just at Grueling Hoops. Also my Twitter page, srisley34. And I believe you have a plethora of Facebook pages. Every time you post something on Facebook, I get about 27 notices from you saying you have posted something on Facebook.
Hey, we've picked up like 15
outlets all over the place.
We've picked up 15 podcasters and writers in the last 3 days. So we got like over 100 people working for us now at the Grueling Truth. So pretty soon,
should we pat ourselves on the back or something?
No, what we need is we need to find a sponsor for this Indiana basketball show so me and Steve and the Grueling Truth can get paid.
I think bettingtruth.com is a wonderful sponsor. I think they need to up their ante.
MyBookie.ag.
We have.
See, this is the problem. They don't even know the Indiana basketball show exists because Steve Risley, the famous Indiana Hall of Famer, doesn't even know what it's called yet. We've been doing this show for like 3 months.
Because Steve, the famous Indiana Hall of Famer, is too materialistic to gamble. I'm not stupid enough to know that those guys don't win more times than they lose, and I'd rather go spend my money on a new pair of golf clubs or something instead of golf clubs, rather than just give it to them so they can advertise on our radio.
Well, see, once again, Steve, you're not helping us out on the sponsor thing. So if anybody out there,
Donnie and Marie.
If we're Donnie and Marie, I'm Donnie and you're Marie.
That's okay. I'm a little bit country, you're a little bit rock and roll, whatever.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I've seen the pictures of you on the golf course, and you look like you're getting a little soft in your older age.
I think we need to get paying golf clubs to sponsor us. That would be nice, and get some free product out of them.
We'll get a hold of them. I'd rather have cash, though, because I'm cashalistic instead of materialistic.
Yeah, there you go. That's the same difference.
I still got young
kids. It's been fun.
I
tell you, as a sense, I'm really excited about Illinois, excited about the last half. Everybody should be really happy about this basketball team right now, and really be happy for Coach Miller and be happy for the players, because these kids have persevered through a transition that is a very difficult one to do in a very difficult basketball program to do it in, with a group of fans that are very demanding, and they are coming through with flying colors right now. Let's see if they can maintain that, and we should all just be cheering on the good things that they're doing and root for these guys to win, because right now it's a results-oriented mentality for them. They just need to win every game they play from here on out, and we'll be fine.
All right, Steve, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Make sure you catch us tomorrow night after the ending of the Indiana-Illinois game. Hopefully we'll be sitting here at 13-8, headed into Purdue, the number 3 ranked team in the country. Remember, you can listen to us live after the game on thegruelingtruth.net or Spreaker.com. You can also download our app on iTunes. Just search The Grueling Truth when you go on there. But for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.